Welcome back to the Restaurant Technology Guys podcast. Thank everyone out there for joining us. As I like to say each and every episode, we know you guys have got lots of choices, so thanks for hanging out. Today, I am joined by a technology leader from a brand that I respect. It's fun. I've not been to one since I moved, but I used to go to the one in Southern California all the time. And Anna, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we can talk a little bit about where you get the privilege of working, and we can talk a little bit about the brand and kind of what you guys have been up to lately.
Yeah. So my name is Ana Macias. I am our manager of restaurant technology here at Teriyaki Madness, or TMAD for short. I'll probably say TMAD a lot.
TMAD, okay.
Yeah.
Inside lingo,
Um,
okay.
yes, we always say TMAD. And yeah, so I basically manage everything that has to do with the way our franchisees are taking and processing orders. So POS, online ordering, app and loyalty, third-party integrations, gift cards, and even merchant processing. So that's where I live. And yeah, it's been a fun ride so far.
And how long have you been with the brand?
Almost 5 years now, which is actually crazy to say. I was recruited right out of college here, and I'm just still here. So it's been awesome.
I love that. For those that are not familiar with, I'll try and use the inside lingo TMAD, but Teriyaki Madness, I guess, and you guys have had somebody from marketing on the show a couple of years ago, talked a little bit about the brand, but for people that either didn't listen to that episode or kind of, why don't you walk through what is the brand? What is the product? What is it that you guys put out into the field for those that haven't gotten a chance to check it out?
Yeah, so we are a fast casual Asian brand. We're also about 99% franchised, and we're super big on sort of like the build your own teriyaki bowls. We've got chicken, steak, salmon, tofu, really good stir-fried veggies, and a number of base options like rice and noodles, and a few different signature sauces as well, with some appetizers. We can be healthy. You can make it healthy, or you don't have to make it healthy. We also have options for that too. And we now have just over 200 units across, I think, 40 or so different states now. And we're continuing to rapidly expand, I think close to 20% each year. So it's been
That that's
quick
incredible
moving.
growth. That's you probably as you've been there for 5 years probably have watched craziness happen as you guys kind of continue to expand.
Yes, absolutely. I think when I started, we were just over 100 units. So we've doubled that in the last 5 years, but our growth rate just continues to increase. So I think we'll be at 300 very, very soon.
Very cool. I know when you and I talked pre-show, we had kind of talked about, as you're expanding, obviously it continues to get met with challenges on the tech side. So talk to me a little bit about, I guess, first philosophically, because I've watched different brands do it different ways. And let's talk a little bit philosophically about how do you guys even consider tech? You've got to get adoption from the franchise community, but you get to, help make the decisions. And I'd love for you to kind of talk about some of the best practices, because I know you guys just did some renovations, tech stack wise, and continue to expand while also growing, in the last 5 years, growing 20% year over year. It's a balance. You need to be able to be on the bleeding edge to make sure you're meeting consumer demands, but you also have to manage the franchisees and their spend patterns and kind of all of that. So I'd love for you to kind of talk philosophically about how do you guys even think about tech, and then we can walk through how you guys might consider putting it out into the field, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on it. The franchisee adoption is huge. I mentioned we're 99% franchise. That only means two corporate locations in our system right now, so very, very heavily franchised. And we have an amazing group of franchise owners that are very invested in TMAT and care about the business. Their adoption and just means a lot to us. Like we won't move forward with anything without their adoption on something. So that's definitely a huge part of it. And then I guess more on the tech side of things, we just want to be able to prove its worth. We want to see the numbers. We want to see if it can improve speed of service or order accuracy, labor efficiency. Guest experience is another big one too. And it needs to be able to scale efficiently. If it can't
Mhm.
support us at 200, if it can't support us at 500, we just can't do it anymore. I think one of the biggest points, and a lot of brands are probably saying this now, is it has to be integrated. Like we
Yeah.
can't even look at systems that are not going to integrate with our current tech stack. It just creates too much disconnect in our operations if something is not integrated. And this was a little bit before my time at TMAT, but I think a lot of people would remember when you have a separate tablet for like DoorDash and Uber Eats and Grubhub, and it was just tablet kiosk all over the counter and you're entering the orders manually. It's a process. And so we avoid that at all costs. It's just, not an option anymore. So it needs to be scalable and something that the franchisees are really benefiting.
Yeah, and so I guess talk me through even how do you get that adoption? Because POS is POS, and again, I know that you guys, I know where you guys are at POS tech wise, but then you've got, do we want third party delivery? I'm guessing across your 200 stores, not everybody's the same. The brand doesn't look exactly the same. They don't have the same third party delivery options. They don't have the same even product from time to time. And so you talk about the depth of integration and ensuring that you guys think through that, but also there's always cool shiny things that come up every day. You get, your mailbox probably gets full every single day. How do you even evaluate what is the next? I mean, every time I talk to somebody that's in your role, they're like, can you guys please just stop calling me? I know my mailbox is full. I don't have enough capacity to be able to do the projects that I have. I want to be able to do these things, but how do you guys even, make sure that you're on that bleeding edge, that you are delivering that to the franchisees, but do it in a scalable way, but also not be so tone deaf that you don't think about, everybody's all excited about AI and voice AI. Is that something that needs to be in your brand? And so I'd love for you to kind of talk through a little bit of your thought process, and then how do you get buy-in from the franchise groups, I guess?
Yeah, I think a lot of it starts from franchisee feedback. They are constantly like sending us feedback on things, or we'll send out surveys about certain pilot programs that we may be running, so we can feel out early on how they're feeling about it. Do they even think it's necessary? Like, who thinks it's even going to be worth the additional cost if there is one on their side? And so I think piloting is probably one of the biggest pieces in that. If we see something we like as the franchisor, a franchisee comes up with an idea and we're like, oh, okay, that might be kind of cool to try out. We'll try it. We'll try to get a solid group of owners to dedicate some time to it, give us their feedback, pull some numbers together. And then if we can decide as a unit if it's provided some benefit, that's usually when it becomes more of a necessity in our tech stack than just, the shiny object that everyone thinks is cool for a minute and then, ends up just being an unnecessary overhead cost.
Yeah, well, and again, I've watched over my career, lots of different franchise brands struggle with that because they want to be there, but the franchisees oftentimes have experience even outside of your brand. And so they're coming in with restaurants from other brands and like, well, I have this system here. Why can't I implement it in the store? How much, and again, I've watched both sides of it. How much control and command do you guys have from corporate versus how much freedom do you guys leave at the unit level to be able to, I guess, be able to modify what it is, from pricing to product options to even delivery options or catering options, those kind of different things. I guess, how much flexibility do you guys give them versus how much are you guys like, and again, I've watched it everywhere from you have to use our internet provider, you have to use our router, you have to use our online ordering. There's certain things that I know, I'm sure, gift cards, online
Right.
ordering, POS are probably kind of consistent, but I guess how much
Mhm.
do you guys leave them latitude at the store level versus how much of it are you guys controlling at the corporate level? And I guess anything that you've even seen over your 5 years that you guys have changed because of some failings or some learnings that you guys have had?
We definitely have some level of flexibility, especially just because our shops are all over the place. Like we have to find ourselves supporting different things to support those areas and those demographics. So I think I see the most flexibility in like local marketing promotions that an owner may be into, or if they're doing some fundraising. We have a lot of owners interested in that, and then we'll run like little programs that are just specific to their location. I've also seen a number of sort of those like one-off third-party providers or more so catering. Honestly, catering is
Yeah.
huge for us. And I feel like there are just every day there's like another catering platform out there that is just in Texas or just in Chicago or just in LA. And so when we have shops in those areas and they're being scouted by these brands, like we want them to have that business. So with things like that, like we want to give them an opportunity to try that out. And hopefully it's something that can expand across the country and more of our franchisees can actually take advantage of as well.
I love that. Talk to me a little bit about LTOs. One of the things that I always thought was unique, and again, I don't have a Teriyaki T-Mad near me any longer. I was in Southern California when they opened the first one in Orange County, and there used to be a line out the door when we would first go. And I would drive by it on my way to work, and quite honestly, I miss it. But one of the things that I always found unique about your guys' brand is the sauce selection, the protein selection. You guys always had something unique and always something different. I guess
Mhm.
talk to me a little bit at the brand level, and then talk about how that impacts the because a lot of people, they struggle with LTOs because, you're doing it in a test pilot store and then you've got to roll it out. I guess I'd love to hear your philosophy as a brand starting, and then how does it impact tech? Because again, we got a lot of listeners that are trying to figure this out. And I guess I'd love any insights that you may have, both from a brand level. How do you guys know what to put on the menu? What does that look like? And then how does it end up impacting the tech stack? And how do you make sure that it hits the catering platform, that you've got 40 of out there or whatever else?
Yeah, I mean, I think innovation is always top of mind. And so we now pretty recently have like a dedicated like culinary in-house team. So it's been really cool to see what ideas they can bring to the table and actually have like tastings here at the office. So a lot of it just comes from input at the corporate level here. And also just like what we're learning from franchisees, of course, I'll probably repeat myself. It's always like that franchisee input as well. And I'm not on the ops side, so I probably can't go into too much detail. Yeah, I think we just, if it sounds like something that fits the menu, that is going to have a bold flavor, can be healthy or maybe not, and isn't going to impact, operations in a negative way. Like it's something that kind of fits into the flow of our back of house operations already. I think it's more likely to be added to the menu. And lately, we kind of try to go for the things that are just easier to implement. So I think double protein is a huge one. We're already making those bowls. We're already grilling that chicken, that steak, that tofu, whatever it may be. You're just putting more of it in a bowl. And I feel like everybody is on a protein kick right now. So
Yes,
that was one of the easier ones to put in. No new SKUs or anything like that. And also just super easy to build into our POS system stack. We were able to roll that out, I think, in less than a month when we first started talking
that's
about
awesome.
it, creating, the rollout guides for it, building it out in each of our menus. And we were piloting actually this quarter for a few months. And now we're expanding to the rest of the brand next quarter as an LTO.
That's awesome. And I think back to your point, you guys have your ear to the ground on what the franchisees are needing and what consumers are looking for. So that part's huge. And I guess any learnings on the tech side, or has it just been kind of, hey, ops tells us this is what we need. We need to kind of roll those things out. Because again, I always feel this tension between marketing, operations, and IT. And I'm sure you've experienced it over your 5 years there, not in a bad way, but just in a, hey, we need to be faster. And IT is like, well, we got 14 projects that are already on our list and I can't get to this, you know? So,
Yeah.
I guess speak to your fellow IT administrators that are out there listening. I guess, how have you been able to manage that to be able to make sure that you keep up with the business, the high growth? Because again, if you guys are opening 20, 30, 40 stores a year, you're constantly working, somebody's working with construction and, all of those people to make sure that they get the new tech for the new franchisees and getting them through that pipeline, but also being able to manage this double protein thing that's coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Restaurant Technologies Incorporated. They are the leaders in automated cooking oil management. And if you're not familiar with them, they've been on the show a few times to share some of the unique and cool things that they've been doing in the oil management space. They have an end-to-end closed-loop automated system that helps deliver, monitor, filter, collect, and recycle your cooking oil. Sounds like a lot. It's because they do a ton to help clean up one of the dirtiest jobs and most dangerous jobs in your kitchen. You can check them out by visiting rti-inc.com or by calling 888-779-5314. They've already helped over 45,000 customers in the United States with their cooking oil, so clearly they're doing something right. Now back to the episode. Has there been any learnings that you've had that you could, I guess, share on things that didn't work, or even things that you're like, we implemented this system, or we implemented this process to make sure that we don't miss it because of something that I guess you guys have had as a learning over the last few years?
Yeah, definitely some learnings. I think for myself, I've kind of learned over time that I should come with recommendations and I should come with ideas to my team. Not so much of what are we rolling out, what do we want it to look like, but how do we build it? I'm kind of like I am our primary like tech expertise here.
Uh
And it
huh.
was just me for the first couple of years here, managing all of our new shop openings and getting our integrations set up for everyone. I was able to hire somebody for the first time a couple of years ago, so that's been really awesome to have, especially with all of our growth, and have somebody a little bit more dedicated to that side of things now. But yeah, I think just educating yourself on each of your platforms, knowing what the capabilities are, so that you can hear from your team internally what they want and then figure out functionally how you can actually support that and come with that recommendation and build it out test it out, show them how it works and prove that out. And then I think more as a company, we are huge on communication and just keeping people informed, continuing to update everyone on where our projects are at, or if you have other projects that are impacting your ability to support these LTOs or other new things that we're rolling out in the system. We still kind of have a version of it, but we had what was called a Mad Labs team. It was basically one person from almost every department here at the office. And we would all gather once a week to discuss everything that we were working on that would have some sort of impact on the company, primarily franchisee facing, but also corporate facing changes as well, or improvements really. So that gave us an opportunity to get everyone on the same page, figure out what the next steps are, what do we need from everyone, how do we ensure this goes smoothly and we're not seeing unintentional impacts on other parts of the business.
Yeah, no, and I think that's huge that you guys have got this cross-functional team that you guys are built because again, I've watched too many times in IT where they're the last to know and they're like, oh, POP just showed up or the menus just showed up and you're like, was somebody going to tell me so that I could program it into, the POS and, your digital menu boards or whatever those things are. So why don't you talk a little bit about kind of your stack? We talked about POS a little bit, but why don't you kind of, what all do you guys have technology, both guest facing and then staff facing within the stores, if you don't mind talking kind of through what is kind of your core building blocks and then where do you see things going?
Yeah. So with our in-house tech stack, we've got Revel POS right now, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, because we were just in a big POS evaluation, and so we're actually moving to Toast. We're in progress with that now, but currently Revel. We use Olo for online as well as catering. We rolled out their Catering Plus tools a couple years ago, and that's been great. Punch for loyalty. We also have Tattle as like a guest feedback platform for guest surveys and things like that. And then our primary third party providers are DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, and then Easy Cater. Easy Cater is a
Okay.
huge, huge one for us as well. And then back of house, we are using Altimetrics. And what else am I forgetting? We've got Value Tech gift cards. The list I feel like keeps growing, so I
Well,
always
that's
have
the
to
thing
like
that
go
I,
back and
I try and
remember.
remind people is the amount of tech stack, kind of, sprawl continues to grow. Have you guys gotten
Mhm.
into digital menu boards? Again, the only times I've been to your guys' concept have been primarily in a walk up fast casual. Have you guys expanded into, I guess, let's start with digital signage and digital menu boards. Are you guys doing anything with those yet? And if so, what? And if not, then, we're good and we can move on.
Yeah, nothing yet with digital menu boards. I know we've looked into it in the past, but it has been a number of years though, and I think just at that time the cost wasn't really worth it for
Hmm.
us. I think there's potential for that to change in the future. And like from a management side of things, if you're able to go into your POS menu, update a price, and it's instantly on your menu board, you don't have to reprint everything and reinstall it. Like it sounds great. It sounds like a
Yeah.
time saver and a little bit of a money saver. Yeah, just not something that's been like a big focus for us as of yet.
And I will say that, especially from an 86 perspective, being able to, when you do run out of
Mhm.
broccoli or whatever for your veggies, it can get rid of it off the screens, and it creates a level of flexibility. We've had a couple of providers that have been on the show in the past. So we see more and more people going there. Let's go down the path of digital. So you talk about your kind of primary digital ordering platforms. You talked about them being integrated. How tightly integrated and how much sprawl is there? Again, Easy Cater. I'm guessing you guys don't do an Easy Cater, the same bowl recipes that you do when you walk in to the store. Again, it's primarily a bowl concept, at least when I've been. At least what I've ordered there has always been kind of bowls. Talk to me a little bit about kind of how you guys even manage that stack from a tech perspective, because again, more and more people are trying to figure out how to get outside the four walls and be able to expand those things. And so, what do those offers look like? How do you guys make sure that you guys stay relevant, but also keep some level of control and some level of control as well as some level of I guess consistency across the brand?
Yeah. I mean, transparently, I think there's room for improvement there, and integrations and in general, I think will just continue to improve and become tighter. I think we get, the most important information we need out of those integrations, which is really what is on that order, what does the kitchen need to make, and what time does it need to go out the door. There are other things related to like third-party markup or promotions that we're running in these other systems that the POS can't capture that can make the reporting a little bit harder on the corporate end, but also for franchisees too, because then you find yourself logging into your POS platform and then your online platform. And then you have all your different third-party portals where you have to go and look at your banking statements. And it can be a lot, especially from like a bookkeeping side. But like if you just want to know how your business is doing, you have to put all the puzzle pieces together
Yeah,
for if you really want to get into like the nitty-gritty details of it all. But we are also super heavy on improving our data accuracy and our data collection here. One of our really big projects right now is just tapping into more of those APIs so that we're not having to manually go in between these platforms, and we can just put everything into one big data warehouse, have all these metrics put together, and kind of have it be a one-stop shop for our franchisees. And that's a long-term goal. It's going to take some time to get all of that data into one place, get it organized, and just in a digestible format for the franchisees as well, because sometimes it's too much, and so we just want to pull out what we find the most impactful there. But yeah, I'm excited to see that continue to evolve and just give us more information so that we can continue to make good decisions for the brand.
I love that. And ultimately, you keep talking about how much you guys rely on the franchisees not only to give you feedback, but ultimately the brand is only as successful as the franchisees are successful, and so ensuring that you've got all of that stuff hit. Last, I guess, kind of thought process on the tech stack side. Where are you guys investing? You guys are growing so fast. You're in the middle of this POS retrofit, so you probably don't have a ton of time. But where do you see things going? I guess where are some things that you're like, oh, this is intriguing? We talked a little bit about digital menu boards as something
Mhm.
that's intriguing. I alluded to voice AI. I was just at Mere Tech last week, a multi-unit restaurant executive tech show, and just listening to people talk. I guess as you sit and think about the brand and your operators are coming back to you, where do you see things going? Where do you see things from an investment perspective outside of kind of core POS?
There's probably a number of things across the system we could be working on. For me, I'm pretty focused on our operational efficiencies. I think a lot of that will come with our POS migration. Like that's kind of a fresh start there. So we're going to make a lot of improvements either way throughout the process, even though it will be a little bit painful. We're
Yeah,
very
it always
excited.
is. It always is.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think one of the biggest things that I've just seen as a pain point here, and I think with plenty of other brands too, is connecting all the orders that you're having come through online and third party, and how to throttle those orders based on what is happening inside the four walls of the shop.
Yes.
I think that is one of the biggest disconnects I see in our platforms today. And I know there are like some systems out there that can support that. But I think because of everything else we have going on, it is also something that we just kind of have to keep pushing to the side for a little bit longer. I'm hopeful that once we're a little bit further into our POS migration and things are going smoothly and we're just, opening more shops and everything kind of settles back down again, I'll be able to focus on improving some of the other pieces that I feel like are still missing from our tech stack.
Yeah, and I'll shameless plug here. We built a tool called Kitchen AI. That's a predictive timing analytics tool. I'll share it to you, but for our listeners out there, it's the idea of how do you know what's actually happening in the kitchen, get a prediction time of how long it's going to take to make this order, so you can give the guest back something within a minute or two of when it actually will be produced, because you don't really know. You don't really know. And I think as people are getting more and more, going from 10% off prem to 30, 40, 50% off prem, some are even higher than that. You got to figure out how, when I walk into a store and I see a line, I know kind of how long it's going to probably take me to get up there and get ordered. When I'm digitally ordering and I see 20 minutes and it takes an hour, I'm pissed. And there's times when I see an hour, I'm like, I'm not going to order from there, and I lose that order. Whereas the chances are you may have been able to fulfill that because of one thing or another. And I love, I guess, the thoughts on that. Changing gears here. What would you recommend? So I'm going to go to the product side. If you've never been into Teriyaki Madness, the T-Mad, what is kind of the go-to? And then what is your 5 years in? Because almost everybody that's in a restaurant brand has this wacky order that they're like, "Oh, I get it with this, you know, I get the salmon added to the beef or whatever else." So love for you to kind of talk about what's kind of the core one or two items that you would recommend to friends and family that have never been to the brand, and then kind of what is your unique order that's a little bit different than what everybody would expect.
Yeah. Yeah. So spicy chicken, I think, and teriyaki chicken are our top sellers. Those are kind of the primary bowls that we have on the menu. So those are always a go-to. I think if you're new to the brand, those are some really good options. If you like spicy, our spicy teriyaki chicken is really good, and you can also take that a level further with our mad spicy chicken. Over the years, though, I have found myself ordering over and over again our orange spicy chicken. So grilled chicken in our spicy sauce, but also tossed in our orange sauce, so it adds a little bit of a sweetness to it. And I also cannot resist our crab rangoons. They are
They are
just they're
fantastic.
top tier.
Yes,
Yeah, try the crab rangoons. They're my favorite thing on the menu. If I'm not hungry enough to eat a whole bowl, I will just get crab rangoons and call it good.
that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing. And again, the thing that always has blown me away is just how the quality of the sauces that you guys have. And really, just even the it feels like to me when I've been into the brand, it's like one of those things where you almost can't go wrong because you can always just try different things. And that part is really cool to me because a lot of the competitors, I guess, in the space, there's a very confined menu. It's like, oh, you get chicken or beef, you get it over white rice or brown rice, and you can get side of vegetables. But you guys, I don't know, it feels like the sauces to me are what take you guys to that next level, and I love that you guys are executing at that level.
Yeah, yeah, no, the sauces are great, and we're continuing to experiment there. Hopefully, we'll see more on the menu soon. Lots of really great flavors, so we're excited for
Awesome.
that.
What did we miss in today's conversation? Anything else that you would want our listeners to know about kind of your role, the things that you guys are doing, and or the brand before we sign off?
Not too much. I mean, if you're interested in opening a TMAD, hit us up. We are opening shops almost every week now. And we want to continue to grow and get in every state and expand to multiple countries even. So we want to continue to grow. We want your support. And yeah, go to teriyakimadness.com to find a location near you. Hopefully there's one near you already, and you can give us a try.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing about your experience and kind of all of what you guys continue to do. As I like to say to our listeners, and I said it at the onset, thank you guys for hanging out. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe. Let us know. Let us both know what you tried and what the item was once you checked out a TMAD in your local region, and make it a great day.
Awesome.